Uh, Jane, be getting ready. We're going live. Welcome to Pi and AI Kigali.
Uh, hey everyone, hope you are doing great. Welcome to Pi and AI Kigali. So I'm very excited to have all of you joining us. Uh, my name is Nyangwija Ndudie. I am event ambassador at deeplearning.ai in Kigali, Rwanda, and that's where I'm speaking from. So you are probably tuning in from different parts of the world. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. And I do hope that whenever or whatever the situation you are in, you're going to have a great time with us today. And we do appreciate you for joining us. Before we start, I would like to tell you that just feel free to ask any question in the comment section, and we'll have a dedicated time for this question towards the end of the event. Also, after the event, you receive an email from deeplearning.ai to fill a survey so that you can get 50% off month on the deeplearning.ai courses on Coursera. I encourage you to fill that survey so that you'll be able to get the access to the amazing course they have about AI. You also get an email giving you a copy of book called Getting Started in Data Science, authored by Ayodele, who is our speaker today.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much.
Our topic today is building a great. Thank you so much, Ayo. Our topic today is building a career in data science from learning to the path of landing a job. Data science has become one of these fields which are attracting a larger number of people. And despite the fact that the field is new and huge, there are so many interesting things to work on. There are so many opportunities, and the community behind it is so supportive. And this is why we are happy to have someone who is well positioned to help us to get to know how to build a long-term career in data science. Yes, giving you also welcome. I would like to start introducing my organizing team who will help a lot. And I have Kennedy Wangari, who is joining from Kenya. Kennedy is a data scientist at SafeCoder, and he's incoming data science intern at University of Rwanda, and he's joining Carnegie Mellon University in next year. So, giving you huge welcome. Ayodele is a data scientist at Sambasoft, AI entrepreneur, and she has a very great blog which I invite to check. You could see the links in the description of. Ayodele has spoken in great conferences such as QTech Summit and Data Science Co, and much more. And so Today we are very happy to have us speaking in Pi and AI Kigali. Are you there? Big welcome to Pi.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be able to do this talk.
So what?
Awesome. Thank you. Let me make sure that my slides are visible and then we can just jump right in. Awesome. So today I'm going to talk about building a career, like Jan mentioned. So a little bit about me. I actually started my career in digital marketing. So my roles before data science were actually to build marketing campaigns, look at marketing analytics, and then try to understand the best way to increase those numbers within our teams. So I actually transitioned into data science by getting my master's degree in data science. My undergraduate degree was in digital media and communications. So I had to learn a lot of the technical tools, a lot of the statistics that are involved in data science. And right now, I'm actually writing a book called Uncovering Bias in Machine Learning. So, talking a little bit more about ethical AI and what we can do to stop these major critical AI incidents that we see. So, the first part of this talk, I'm going to go into the skills that you need, and then we'll move on from there. So when we talk about data science, coding is a big skill that you may see listed, but I like to think of it as, the tool of the trade, the tool that we're using to get so much other work done. You'll also see a lot of things that mention data science as a combination of coding as well as business sense or domain expertise. So, what this really means is being able to understand what methods will work in your industry. So, if you are in healthcare versus maybe someone who's working in entertainment at a company like Netflix, there is a drastic difference in the kinds of metrics that you use as far as what's important. Do you care about type 1 errors or type 2 errors? All of these things are really dependent on the situation, the data you have at hand. And to get this business sense, you really have to understand the business goals and then understand how you can create new metrics. So when I say new metrics here, I don't mean things like accuracy, precision, and recall, but things that product companies care about. So if you're an app company, you care about things like downloads and app registrations. Whereas, other kinds of companies, there are different things that are important. So being able to get this business sense is really, really important, but hard to do unless you already have the job. So, what I suggest for people is if you are already working in another industry, let's say like finance or healthcare, it's a lot easier to transition just your job role from maybe a non technical role or an analyst to a data scientist or a machine learning engineer. It's usually easier to do that than it is to change both. So, going into an industry that you're new to and have to understand the different industry jargon and terms that people use. So sometimes if you are new to data science, it's easier to stay in the industry you already have experience in, like I did. I started working in data science by doing marketing data science because that was my background. And you'll also see a lot of data science descriptions really listing math as a heavy factor. So being able to understand the statistics and probability, as well as linear algebra that goes into things like these matrix combinations. These are core skills, but I'm going to focus on this first part of coding because it's very general, but we mean a lot of different things when we say you need to be able to know how to code for data science. The first thing that we tend to mean is people should be able to wrangle data or be able to go and access data from multiple different resources and combine that into a data set worthy of creating machine learning models with. So we can use pretty much any coding language, SQL, Python, R, to get this data, as well as analyze it. So it's really about choosing tools that you're comfortable with and tools that you know are going to be extremely valuable for companies. Either SQL and Python or SQL and R, but being able to both access disparate data, so having a lot of different data sources, and then being able to clean that is a huge piece for companies. And talking a little bit more about that data cleaning. So here's another place that we leverage coding skills to do things like imputing missing values or combining really sparse categorical columns. When we talk about this kind of statistical coding and doing these data manipulations, we're really just saying, how are we able to get our data from a raw source format into a clean data set that is ready to train models on. So whenever you're learning, I really suggest focusing on these steps of data wrangling, data cleaning, and data transformation, because as someone who has interviewed data scientists, a lot of the complaints from hiring teams or conversations are about, do we think this person can get the data they need independently? And do we think that they're able to work with this in a way that will be beneficial to our company? So data transformations are things like power transforms, like log transformations, scaling data, normalizing data. What's important to know here is when you should do what. So there's different kinds of data encoding, from one hot encoding to label encoding. A lot of what you might see in these interviews will be questions that are asking you to talk about past projects. But a lot of the times I've noticed they'll ask questions about why you made certain decisions. So if you have a project on your resume that says you worked on decision trees, you can expect them to ask that you walk them through this project. So you walk them through the data collection stage and the data cleaning stage. And what they're looking to hear are signs that you know the difference between different methods. You know that by choosing to, you know, the implications of choosing a holdout method versus cross validation. Those are the things that interviewers are really looking for, especially in those technical interviews where they're starting to ask about not only if you know the specific answer to a term or a formula, but if you can really describe what you're doing and if you can explain it to other people. Another huge aspect of the coding piece here is really this functional programming. So a lot of people who have written code for analytics started off as data analysts like myself and started writing SQL, sometimes struggle with this idea of creating concise, reusable code. But just based off of, you know, a lot of the packages and libraries that are out there, we have to start adopting this more stringent technical standard, even for some experimental work. So what that means for you is trying to practice reusing code, thinking about things in terms of reproducibility will make this a lot easier for you as well. So especially with building data models, if we're not saving the outputs of our models, if we're not saving the weights of our models, it's easy to rerun something and have completely different results. So start thinking now about how you can functionalize your programming, even if you are just doing basic things in Jupyter notebooks. But being able to show that off is actually a huge deal when you are going to be interviewing for data science roles. And then experimental design. So this has been a big piece of a lot of the interviews that I've given, as well as I've done. A lot of times, companies are really interested in making sure that you can make consistent experimental choices. So that's talking through the prototyping stage of an algorithm and being able to specifically say, like I mentioned, why you made certain choices. This is also really correlated with hypothesis testing and being able to speak to the different kinds of hypothesis tests you can do, the different kinds of ways to evaluate these tests, as well as A/B testing. So A/B testing isn't new, especially with the internet. It's mostly been used for testing features on web pages like colors and buttons. But being able to explain this from a data perspective is an area that a lot of new people, especially myself when I was in your position, really lacked. I wasn't able to really explain why I was making certain choices. And sometimes this comes from seeing a tutorial and assuming that because they did it a certain way, that that's the way you have to do things. So I would really focus on building some of your intuition and knowledge in this experimental and machine learning prototyping stage. So moving into learning, my biggest tip for you is to practice consistently. I tend to do this and did this a lot when I was learning, is sometimes wait until one day and get all of my work done and not really work on it for days at a time. This isn't really the best way to learn if you can help it, because going so long between periods of study and practice um, don't really help you. So I like to think about it this way: if you can get 1% better at any skill involved in your data career every single day, then you will see the growth is going to be exponential. So remember to practice. um, but to talk about how to learn and what path to take, there are so many paths into data science. It's special in that it's a field that it's not a cookie cutter path for everyone. And even people who are considered traditional data scientists or have had long careers in data science, many of them either don't have relevant degrees, or they have degrees in statistics and maybe didn't think that they would end up in a data science or ML role. So there's a lot of things you can consider. Academia is the path that I took. I chose that for me because not having a technical background, not coming from a really hard statistics or math or computer science background, I felt like I needed to have the degree to have a certain level of credibility. But that's not the only path you can take. There are also boot camps. For a lot of people, there is on-the-job training, and as well as taking these self-taught paths. So that's using things like leveraging Coursera courses, leveraging YouTube videos, which even people in graduate school do. So one of the things I find helpful in trying to understand what path to take is actually this chart from a really good book called build a career in data science. This helps you decide and make that decision a little more. So for people who might have some existing data science or programming experience, maybe you don't choose a graduate program. Maybe you start to consider how long is an okay transition. If you are okay, in your current role and are willing to learn on the job or learn on your own, then you can take a little bit more time. But if you're looking to accelerate this career transition, that's when we see people start leaning towards boot camps, because they do offer these accelerated courses. You're learning a lot of things really, really quickly, and sometimes you're not able to work on other projects. So hopefully this gives you some insight into how to start making these decisions to start learning. And then I think it's really important to focus on these portfolio projects, right? So the thing that's interesting is that we should, in our portfolio projects, cover every stage of the machine learning development, right? So that's going from data collection to data wrangling and cleaning, to our basic statistical analyses, and then going into model training, model evaluation, communication, and presenting. There's a lot of pieces to this so-called end-to-end machine learning project that it can be a little difficult to remember. But what I think is most important to focus on, especially if you're new, is being able to communicate that you can get data from a lot of different resources, and that you understand the different methods to model training as well as model development or model evaluation. And talking about data sources for these projects, there are a lot of open data, especially government open data websites. There is a lot you can do with web scraping. And I really suggest that, there are some legal rules you have to skirt around with web scraping, but I really suggest it, even if it's just scraping things like tweets, so you can get a feel for what it's like to do that. There are a lot of corporate and enterprise machine learning organizations that do heavy web scraping to get their training data. So being comfortable doing that and being comfortable working with APIs, those are generally areas that beginners have less experience with, but you can stand out by starting to gain that experience and starting to really show that off when you are interviewing for these roles. So going into finding jobs in data science, here I don't have a ton of advice, not because it's not possible, but the bits I do have to keep important are the job title may not necessarily be your search term, right? So maybe you're interested in job titles like data analyst, data scientist, research roles, and ML engineering roles. What's difficult is that in most companies, these job descriptions are written by people in human resources. So it's rare that you get a hiring manager who actually has a lot of input on the job description. So what I mean by that is just take the job description with a grain of salt. Please apply to roles even if you only meet 50% of the qualifications. We have to start seeing job descriptions as a company's wish list. Like, this is their Christmas list of things they could get in one single person. And so many times it's not one person that they're looking for. So whenever you're looking for these roles, instead of just searching for these specific job titles, I've always found it better to search for specific keywords that are going to be in either the job title or the job description. So if you're looking for more machine learning focused roles, while we may see that surface ML engineering roles, we might also see data science roles come up and research science roles come up. So focus less on the job title when you're searching and more about the things that you would like to do, or analytics per se is one task that's within a lot of these roles. So start looking by the actual responsibilities and requirements as keywords like this versus looking just for job titles that match what you think you want to do. It's pretty common that you'll see a data scientist job title, and then in the job description, it sounds more like a data analyst or more like an ML engineer. So we can focus less about title and then really just try and gear your skill sets to jobs that are relevant for you. And then tailoring your resume. So this is the tip that I did not take seriously enough when I first started my career, but it's important to have, a main resume that's general and you can send out to pretty much any company. But it's also really important to have these specialized resumes. So this is huge, especially if we don't meet every single requirement for a role. We're able to go on our resume and maybe highlight different things that a hiring manager or a screener, a technical screener or recruiter is going to, we want to highlight things that make them want to hire you. You are basically trying to prove with your resume that you're worth having a conversation with in just a couple of seconds. So, especially if you don't meet every requirement, having a specialized resume that goes into more depth into experience that's relevant to that company. So in the past, I have worked for app companies, and every time I interview at a new app company, I talk about my experience at other app companies. I highlight that work experience on my resume so that they understand that I know the kind of environment that they're working in. So having tailored resumes, not just if you don't meet all the requirements, but also for specialized roles. If you are applying for general data science roles, but you're also really interested in natural language processing or computer vision, it's really good to have specialized resumes for when you apply to those jobs. So last bit here is marketing. I think this is the most important aspect when we talk about building our careers, because we can build technical skills, but what if we don't know how to communicate them to people? Unfortunately, we can still not land the roles, even that those that we're qualified for. So there's a lot of different ways, especially now that we're living in an even more digital world, to market yourself online and to stand out within the crowd, considering data science is starting to be a really, really competitive field. So what's huge here is being able to communicate your value. How have you impacted past businesses? A lot of times in interviews, they may be asking about, let's say you have data science intern experience or have worked as a data analyst. They're going to be interested in hearing how you impacted your company and hearing how you're able to quantify that. Do you have a dollar amount attached to how much money you were able to make a company in a quarter? We shouldn't just communicate this on our resumes, but we should be able to communicate this on the various different platforms we use to market ourselves, as well as on things like our personal blogs and websites. So the first one I really suggest people get on and get active on is LinkedIn. I have seen so many people find job opportunities from posting incredibly helpful and relevant content on their LinkedIn. I find it best for not just networking, but really starting to build credibility. When you are able to have an employer search your name and find your profile with a lot of other articles and posts that are really well thought out and are able to communicate you're a valuable asset to a company, there are few limits to the job opportunities, at least by doing that on LinkedIn. Another I actually really suggest is Twitter. So I've gotten past roles on Twitter just by talking about interesting projects and having business owners and company CEOs reach out to me. So Twitter is great for finding community because, especially working in data science and machine learning, we have an incredibly supportive community. And I think that's what I'm most thankful for, considering so many people are not they weren't inherently going to be in data science. We have a lot of non-traditional backgrounds and career transitioners, and it's nice to have people, or it's nice to have a data community that's open, willing to talk about their projects, and willing to help. So Twitter's great because not only can you connect with these business owners and CEOs, but people post job opportunities extremely often. And you can also find some community there and learn with alongside people who understand the struggle as well, as well as GitHub. So this is a great place for just showing off your code projects. So GitHub actually has a nice new feature where if you can edit your README to read almost like a profile page. So when someone visits your profile, it's not just your pinned repositories at the top and your commitment history. It's actually going to show whatever you'd like it to. So people have used this as a way to advertise their work, advertise their consulting, and really just add a more personal element to their GitHub. But this really allows you to just not only connect with other developers, but really prove your technical skills. I have had, at almost every single interview I've had, they have wanted to see my GitHub, and they have wanted to see the past projects I've worked on, even if they've just been for fun projects. And they are analyzing things like how I'm actually commenting my code, how I'm explaining things in the README, if the code is actually clear to read, or if it looks like I clearly followed a tutorial and didn't really do much work on my own. So by having a really fleshed out GitHub account, you're actually able to pretty easily prove some of these technical skills that hiring managers and recruiters might be worried about. And lastly, focusing on your blog and personal website. So this is a great way to brand yourself, make a name for yourself. And I can say from firsthand experience that by having an active blog and having a good website, people can find you. And so that's the biggest thing, is people, recruiters and hiring managers are tasked with a difficult job, right? They're trying to find the right person or the right pool of people to pick the right person from. While LinkedIn and other hiring websites are really helpful by really being able to have your blog or website come up really high when they search for your name, and then they can see that you shared your expertise. They can see that you are willing to show off your portfolio. They should be able to read a blog post and get a good idea about how you communicate technical concepts. And it shows some insight into your thought process as well. So it actually becomes a bit of a time-saving tool by having this very, prominent website, so that, let's say they Google your name once they see you apply for a role, and they go to your website, they're like, okay, they can see your entire thought process and how you approach new problems. And that's what I think the goal of most of our personal websites and blogs should be, especially when we're first starting. We want to be able to share our expertise and communicate that well, so that it bodes us well in the interview process. Imagine that you have had someone, already look you up, already find your blogs and articles in Medium, and be fairly impressed with that. By the time they meet you, they're also able to ask you some more in-depth questions, some more educated questions, versus people that will go into that same process without having that really prominent way of advertising themselves. Recruiters may go through that initial, so, tell me how you think, tell me how you approach a problem. This is one way you can get ahead a little bit, as far as just giving recruiters and hiring managers more information about you. And that is it. That is all I've got. But I would like to leave you with this. I really want new aspiring data scientists to focus on those technical skills and then focus on communicating those skills. The hardest part for me was learning how to take technical jargon and language and make it understandable for anyone that I'm talking to. So being able to explain concepts like they're five, like someone else's five, is a really, really huge point. So I want people to be able to focus on not just building those technical skills, but being able to walk someone through their code and walk someone through what they're doing and why they chose to make those decisions. And I feel like those are the biggest things that will help you when you start interviewing. So when you do feel solidified in your skills, which I'd like to mention, you should work on somewhat one by one, somewhat go deep in one area, and then don't feel like you have to learn it all at the same time. That is not possible. And it's really hard to take in and absorb a lot of new concepts. So if you want to spend, I like to think about my learning careers in quarters or in semesters. But if you want to spend maybe 3 months focusing on having really, really strong Python skills and being able to show that off, then you can move into, taking a section and focusing deep on either your statistics and probability skills or your business intuition and experimental design skills. So I know it's overwhelming when we see some of these job descriptions and they look like a laundry list, but I don't want you to be afraid of that. I want you to practice consistently and then practice explaining what you're doing to people. So whether that's your friend or your family or a colleague or teammate who is willing to listen, but genuinely getting in practice and uh, con- uh, talking about these terms to people who don't have technical backgrounds is actually going to be a huge part of your job, whether you're a data analyst, a data scientist, a machine learning engineer. So I'd love for everyone to keep that in mind as well. And that's it. Please feel free. I've got some time for questions.
Uh, thank you. Thank you so much, Ayodele.
Yeah.
That was really a great talk I saw from building current data science. I'm glad that you touched from running side of things, and I really liked how you talked on marketing. Really, very few people when they want to learn technical things, they focus more on the technical side of things, but they don't know how to approach people, how to approach opportunities. So
Yeah.
I'm really, really glad you touched on how people can be available on LinkedIn, GitHub, building personal portfolio. Thank you so much, Ayo.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad that I was able to give this talk.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm really, I'm hoping that the audience are feeling the same way.
I hope so. I tried to keep it a little bit, at least in my part of the world, it's early in the morning. So I tried to keep it a little bit lighter on the technical concepts. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. We do have so many interesting questions in the comments. So as this is the time for this question, I'll pick some of them and I'll be reading them directly.
Okay, perfect.
Just ask it. How would you suggest someone starting building their skills? Machine learning. She said machine learning and data science can be overwhelming. So how do you suggest someone to start building their skills?
I think it starts by learning the basics. So it may not be the fun or exciting part, but I suggest for most people getting a strong statistics foundation is really helpful for pretty much every role in data science and ML. There are a few roles that don't require it, but starting there, I find is helpful, especially if you don't necessarily love math. I didn't love math, and then statistics was the first course that I was like, oh, this makes sense. I can apply it to the sports I like. I can apply it to so many other aspects of the world. So, starting there and starting with a resource that's more fun or more relevant to the things that you're interested in might be helpful too.
That's a great response. Uh, Someone also asked it, does a data scientist need to be a better statistic than software engineering? You touched on that, but I wonder if you could maybe say something more, if there is.
Yeah. Did you say, does a data scientist have to have a PhD? Is that what you said?
She said, does a data scientist need to be better at statistics than software engineering?
Ah, um, the way I've heard it described is you have to be better at a better software engineer than statisticians and a better statistician than software engineers. Um, I do think it's incredibly important to have that statistics foundation regardless. But most people in data are still somewhat lacking on those software engineering skills. So I think it's an interesting area for us to grow because I think sometimes we don't think about data projects as software versus I'd like to encourage people to start thinking about front end data work. So let's say you create a recommendation system. It's great to have that on your GitHub. But what's really more important is maybe you have a basic website where someone is able to put in their favorite video game and your recommender just shows a list of 10 similar games. Being able to show it off in that way or to really create a product out of it is where a lot of people in data science are lacking in those software engineering skills.
That's great. So software engineering is still important if you can get those skills.
Yes.
Someone has asked it, what makes a data scientist? I think he wanted to mean what makes someone a data scientist, or when can you classify yourself as a data scientist?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I believe that it mostly comes from how you approach solving problems. So I would say you can call yourself a data scientist when you are technically competent enough to get your own data and manipulate it. But what makes you a real data scientist is understanding the methods enough to know when some methods will work and when some methods will fail. So knowing that for models like decision trees, you don't necessarily need to scale or normalize your data. But if you're dealing with anything that is spatial or looking at like Euclidean distance, that you're going to want to normalize, scale that data. It's about being able to know the pros and cons of each method and knowing when to use them and when to use maybe alternatives. So it really starts by the ability to ask the right questions. And this is really important when you get a job because a lot of times what you will be asked to do is not actually what they want or need. And so being able to translate how stakeholders and people who are interested in your work approach you and tell you they need something, and being able to translate that into what they really need and into data tasks. So I think focusing on being curious, asking the right questions, clarifying and understanding, what they really mean when they say, find us customers who are likely to churn or are likely to buy. And then being able to have the technical skills and knowledge to know the difference between methods, and know when some are applicable and when you would go with another choice. Yeah.
Thank you. We have two more questions, which seems to be very interesting. Maybe you can close with that. The first one is, I don't know if there's a proper response for this, but I will read it as this. I would like to know the type of companies or industries where data scientists are highly needed.
Yeah, there are a lot. So you have a couple different like classifications of companies. You have your massive tech company, which is like Google, Apple, but you also have a lot of different stages of startups who are interested in data science, and desperately needing data science. But what I would suggest as well, is looking into government roles, looking into nonprofit roles, areas that are typically, they may be somewhat underfunded at times or less exciting and less cutting edge, but they have really impactful work. So I'm based in the United States, and I know a lot of people who work with state or government data here are working to try and improve healthcare outcomes, or they're working to try and reduce pay inequalities, or working to try and reduce, some people still don't have great access to food and other resources. So the kinds of companies hiring is kind of everything under the sun. I think it's important for every individual to try and figure out where they like to work. Um, I like small, medium companies because I know I can have a lot of impact on the work we do. I like to know my coworkers really well. So you can start to think about those kinds of tasks and the kinds of size of team you want to be on. So when you are at maybe the massive FANG tech companies, you can more or less feel like a number. You are, maybe one data scientist on one team, and your company may have, 100 or more data scientists. So the nature of the work in that environment is a lot different than if you're on a small team of 3 to 4 people, right? So it's about understanding the kinds of environments you like to work in, and industries that you're interested in. There are very few industries or companies that have not adopted using data to make decisions. So you should still have a lot of options, and so it's really about your interests.
Yes, and there's trade-off between companies and what you want to work on, like what is your interest. So small teams will always have their benefits. Big teams, they have their benefits. So I'm glad
Yeah.
your response also like that. Someone who asked this question, I got to know what data science means in different companies. The last question from the chat, it's interesting question, and I would like to know, among data wrangling, data cleaning, or data transformation,
Mhm.
which one is better to embrace, or should we be good at all as a data scientist?
I would say most data scientists have to do it all. If you are on a really big team, you might have um, data already accessible, or you may have a data engineer on the team that's in charge of managing the data warehouse, making sure that the tables you need are ready to be analyzed or ready to be modeled. But in most cases, especially on smaller teams, I would say all of those are important and all of those are part of your job. Um, it's important to um, be able to do the data wrangling, but I think focusing on that cleaning and transformation. Once you are able to get data, a lot of people are faced with the what now. They want to dive into analyzing it, but truly being able to clean it, understand, there's almost always really, really messy data in industry. And that's the biggest warning I'll give you, especially if you are used to doing tutorials or are learning in academia. Start playing with and getting used to really, really messy and imbalanced and hard to clean data. The more experience you have with that, the easier it's going to be when you are transitioning into a role. And then so many people forget about the different kinds of data transformations we can use. So this has been a really, really powerful tool, not just in feature engineering, but really being able to understand our data better, being able to look at our data by maybe we use min-max scaling and we are able to see the differences in the data set a little bit better or gain a better understanding. So it's important to know all three, and you will probably be expected to know how to do all three. But focus, if you can, your efforts on working with messy, incomplete data that's going to be a lot more similar to what you'll see in the real world.
Thank you. Maybe we should also say that most of the work will be done through these three things.
Yeah. Yep. I think most data scientists are still saying that they spend about 80% of their time on data cleaning.
Yeah, so which make it very important to know data transformation, data cleaning. So we have bonus question. Our
Yeah.
audience are so interactive. So this question, and everyone will get a book. So if you don't have your question answered, I'm pretty sure that it will be answered somewhere in the book. So it says, do I really need to have a personal blog to show off my project, or even if I regularly push my project on GitHub?
I would suggest yes. And for most people, it's mostly about findability, right? Like you want when someone to Googles your name, your website should come up. They should see all of your work. Your GitHub doesn't necessarily rank as well. They can, find that by searching for you as well or searching on GitHub. But the benefit of the blog or the personal website is that you're able to really show off exactly what you want. With GitHub, I have in the past, I've been in the position where I'm hiring people and I go on their GitHub. I will, have a couple minutes to skim through what they've worked on. I'm like, okay, you made a recommender, you made a spam classifier, and that's kind of the end of it. But if you have a personal website, people tend to spend more time looking through things. So, looking through every single project you list. And I think that it's especially important to have this blog or personal website if your GitHub doesn't have really great READMEs. So, this is definitely a problem that, I've been a part of in the past, and most people don't do, is having a really, really well written README. If you do and you have a README that is very much an entire project summary, then maybe you don't have a blog or personal website. But I especially recommend, if you're new, if you don't have a lot of data science experience on your resume, absolutely go for it. It doesn't necessarily have to be a personal site. It can be a blog on Medium or on Hashnode. But there's a lot of different tools that you can use to have your own space where you write your content and people can find just your content.
Uh, Thank you, Ayodele. So you see, it's important to have a blog. As you said, GitHub can probably show that you know how to code as technical person, but a blog will shows that you can work with people, you can communicate. So really important and thanking our speaker to show you how you can even create it easily, like on Medium, as she said, or Hashnote. There's this bonus question that I have on my screen. You know, this feed is really huge. It's new. People don't know where to start. Organization don't know how to find the right people. So how does someone stand out, and how does someone update himself or herself?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest ways to stand out is having that niche or that superpower. So for me, my undergraduate degree was in communications. When I started working in data science, there were people on my teams who had PhDs in math and statistics who, when asked, hey, can you present this in front of the entire company? They're like, will you do it? And they asked me to kind of be that liaison. So my way of standing out has been communicating, has been teaching, right? So finding your niche, a lot of this comes from typically your past experience. I know people who are now in data science after careers in medicine, and it only makes sense that they work in healthcare data science, right? They have an in-depth, intimate knowledge of the data. So they just had to learn new skills to be able to look at something similar. So when it comes to standing out, it is about finding either something you're interested in or already good at. Sometimes the real way to stand out is to be a specialist, is to specialize in computer vision or to specialize in natural language processing and be an expert at that thing. Or you can do this on a technical level too. You can be a specialist in time series modeling. There are people who are specialists in creating generative adversarial networks or GANs. So finding things that intersect with what you're interested in, the background or the skills that you already have. That's the easiest way to stand out when we do have an incredibly competitive field.
Uh, Thank you so much. That was a perfect and honest response. So now is the time. We usually get to hear from deeplearning.ai. Uh, they do have a great message for us. So now is the time to get to see what they are planning. And I should also say that deeplearning.ai is the, the top organizer of this event, of the file or and their events all over the world. So they have the world-class AI education. So let's get to hear what they have for us now. So let's welcome the Point.ai team.
Hello, deep learners. I'm Andrew Ng, founder of deeplearning.ai, and I'm excited to welcome you to our global deep learning community. I know that many of you are here today because you want to break into AI and build your career. I hope that being part of this community will help you to do so. To give you a proper welcome, I'd like to show you around the deeplearning.ai offices and meet some of the teams so that you can see where it all happens.
Oh, hi, Andrew.
Do you want to tell our friends at Pine AI what you do at deeplearning.ai?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I make articles and other media that help people learn about AI and help them understand the huge impact that AI is having in the world. Today, I'm putting together the next issue of The Batch, our weekly newsletter, and I'm looking for the biggest stories of the week to keep our readers informed.
What's been the most surprising thing you've run into working on the batch?
How much is going on in this field? There's never a dull moment. You might think from the outside that machine learning engineers really understand everything about AI, but nobody understands everything about AI because this field is just coming to life right before my eyes as I put this thing together every week.
All right, I know you're really busy, so I'll let you get back to it.
Thanks. See you later.
Let's go meet Kian, who helped me create the deep learning specialization. He's working on an exciting new project. Hey Kian, so do you want to tell the people at Pine AI what you're working on?
Yes, sure. I'm leading a project called Workera, focusing on helping people get offers in AI and navigating their career by testing their skills, preparing for interviews and certifying them, as well as matching and referring them to good jobs in AI.
That's really cool. And what's the most exciting part of your day?
You know, the AI field is new, organizations and jobs are still misunderstood. So I'm excited to help people understand what different types of jobs exist in the field, what tasks they will work on, and what skills are needed to achieve those tasks.
Yep, that's really important work. Well, it's nice chatting. And now let's go chat to Hotel, who is on their product team.
Hey, Andrew.
Do you want to say hi to our friends at Pine AI and let them know what you're working on?
I would love to. Hi, everyone. I lead the product team in deeplearning.ai, where we create AI education content accessible to people all around the world. People like you.
And what are you most excited about right now?
I am so excited to see our community grow and to see how eager people are to learn more about AI.
Thanks, also.
Thanks, Andrew.
So, as you can see, our team is working hard to support you and help you learn. It's never been easier than before to break into AI. So if you want to build a career, you can leverage online resources available, including open source code, datasets, papers, and online courses like a deep learning specialization on Coursera. As part of this journey, I hope you get your hands dirty too. Don't be afraid of diving in to build your own project, or go ahead and try to replicate a research paper that you're excited about. One thing that I've seen help a lot of people succeed is if you can build a community or find a community of fellow deep learners you can meet with and study with on a regular basis. In fact, I hope that this Pine AI meetup that you're at right now will be a good place for you to meet these people. I hope you enjoyed the event today and that you learn a lot, both from the talks and from each other. And once again, welcome to the deeplearning.ai community.
That was a great message from deeplearning.ai, specifically from Andrew. They are working on making AI AI education accessible to almost everyone in the world. So they do have these really great courses such as deep learning specialization, natural language processing specialization, and they are going to have opportunity of accessing some of these courses through the survey that you'll be able to fill and get access to this course. So I do encourage you to check that email after the event and then fill the survey and then start learning, because the future is, some people like to say that AI is the future. So, and I think there's no lie there. There are so many opportunities to do in AI. And as our speaker gave you a full picture of data science, I'm pretty sure that you benefit a lot from these things. So maybe before we close the event, Ayode could give us 1 minute or 2 minute remarks?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to take a little bit from one of the questions I noticed in the chat, but all of this has kind of been around how you build a career. But a huge part of that is your portfolio project. So what I suggest for a lot of people and a lot of the people that I mentor is to have maybe 2 to 3 portfolio projects on hand for when you start interviewing. So you want these to be completed projects. You want to have obviously done some kind of ML modeling as well as learn something from it. So taking that project and being able to, let's say you have 3 total projects, I would make the one that's maybe a passion. So one of my projects, I really love hockey. I got introduced to hockey when I was in college here in the States. And one of my portfolio projects is predicting hockey goals. But the other 2 of my big portfolio projects were focused on how I could provide value to companies. So projects that were geared to talk to specific industries. So I've had people I've mentored in the past who, let's say if you are interested in a job at a company like Zillow, what you can do is an ML project that's focused on housing data and trying to predict house values. So try and gear your projects towards the industries and the jobs that you're interested in, and just being able to communicate your value to them. Those are probably the biggest things that are going to help you on your journey to getting a job in data science.
Thank you so much, Ayodele, for such remarks, which kind of rounded up all your thoughts. So thank you so much. I'm interested to know how would the attendees like to keep up with you, like to follow what you're working on?
Yeah, I'm most active on Twitter and on LinkedIn. On Twitter, I'm at DataSciBay. And on LinkedIn, if you just search my name, you'll find me pretty easily. But please feel free to stay connected with me. Send any questions you have my way, and I would be happy to point you in the right direction or to send you some resources.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
We are getting to the end of the event. It has been very informative. I really loved all the questions you all asked on the YouTube live chat. I loved the talk that Ayodele had prepared for you, the great slides. So thank you everyone from the organizing team, from the speaker Ayodele, and you audience who took your time to follow us, to ask questions. Thank you everyone. And as the final reminder, you are going to get email from deeplearning.ai. Please feed the survey and get to start learning, break into data science, and we wish you the best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.